it's your girl Trish, and I am here to end the debate of the age-old question, who is better, Elvis or the Beatles? I have been wanting to do this video for a long time, mainly because I get asked a lot. Well, I don't really get asked a lot, but I see other people get asked a lot about like the debate on who's better, Elvis or the Beatles, and I think it's pretty clear, but for those of you who aren't in obvious world, Elvis is clearly the great of the two, obviously, hands down, no comparison. I mean, even John Travolta in Pulp Fiction was like, I'm an Elvis man. I mean, who isn't an Elvis man? Everybody loves Elvis. Elvis is everywhere. Elvis is like the biggest selling artist of all time. I mean, this just, the facts should say that Elvis beats the Beatles just based on statistics alone. But if you're not convinced, if that doesn't convince you, I am here to give you some more of the overall consensus, the general consensus of why Elvis is better than Beatles. One, Elvis came first. So I'm sorry, whoever is the original is greater and will always be greater. He was the original everything. He was the original Beatles. The Beatles are basically four guys who tried to be like Elvis, but even four can't compare to the one Elvis Presley. Elvis was he was the first sort of Michael Jackson, the sort of, you know, movement on stage all suggestively. You know, Michael Jackson grabbed his crotch, but you know, Elvis was the first one to do it back in the 50s of his pelvic thrusting, which is a lot more suggestive. So he was the first to be sexually explicit on stage. Also, he was the first Eminem, so to speak. So Eminem is kind of like the white rapper who's known to do like mainly black music. Elvis, the first white guy to do mainly black music, you know, right? So I think he's kind of like the original everything. So when it comes to Elvis, Beatles, obviously the original is going to be better than the copycat, which are the Beatles. Two, Elvis is Christian, so I mean, I know this is a little more biased because it's like opinion based, but basically Elvis was Christian and the Beatles were satanic, and that is another just sort of fact. I mean, the Beatles, you know, said that they were bigger than Jesus. They said that they were, you know, a lot of their messages are very, you know, it promotes drugs, it promotes, you know, anti-godly sort of actions, and you know, you can rewind it, or I'm sorry, like if you listen to a track backwards, it says it has satanic messages in it, so right away that should just like eliminate them from being the greatest. But if you're not into religion, then here's some other things. Point number three, well, Elvis served our army. Hello Presley, yes, Elvis served our army, but again, that's a little biased. But Elvis has more like number ones than the Beatles, so that should say right there that they're better. And like I mentioned earlier, there are four of the Beatles, and what do we have? We have one still living, right? So basically, there's one still living, and they still can't sell as much as Elvis dead. And also, Elvis is everywhere. Elvis has a Cirque show in Vegas. Elvis impersonators were around before Elvis even died. I mean, you had people like Andy Kaufman impersonating Elvis. There's multiple movies based on Elvis with Elvis in it. Elvis was included in Forrest Gump. Elvis was included in True Romance. I mean, Elvis is just everywhere, and he's still making money. He's like the richest, he's like the biggest selling artist who's like dead, which is kind of impressive considering he died in, what was it? Was it 77? 77. I think he died in 77. So that's a long time ago. It's like over 30 years ago that he died, and he's still selling, so that's pretty awesome. Elvis's music was feel good. Elvis's music was universal. I think the Beatles kind of cater to one audience. Personally, I've never been a fan of the Beatles' music. I don't think any of it was really great. I did like I Wanna Hold Your Hand. I thought that was, you know, pretty good, and I do like, what is that? I Can't Get No Satisfaction. Like, I kind of like that one, and they're catchy, but like, none of them are like staples. None of them are classics like Elvis. And Elvis did movie after movie. He did like 5 movies a year. I mean, he was kind of crazy when it came to how hard he worked. And I just think, like I said, this Elvis will always trump the Beatles because, and Elvis was better looking. Elvis danced better. Elvis's music was better. I think Elvis had more control over his life and his career. The Beatles kind of were just a big mess. They ended up breaking up. And they caused a lot of hate, obviously. I mean, I'm not going to point out the obvious, but a lot of people obviously hated them. And Elvis didn't promote hate. Like, people didn't hate Elvis. Like, everybody loves Elvis. Like, you won't meet someone who's like, I can't stand Elvis, but you'll meet quite a few people who are like, I can't stand the Beatles. And I see these Beatles posters everywhere, and I feel like now it's sort of like an ironic thing. Now that most of them are dead, everyone's like, oh, they're cool now, sort of thing, because it's nostalgia and it's ironic. So, anyways, that's sort of my stand. Elvis is in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. Elvis has he's the #2 most visited house in the world, right after the White House. People can just send a letter to Elvis Presley Graceland and it'll get there, or Memphis, and it'll get there. So it's pretty awesome and pretty remarkable, and I figured I should just do this video to end the debate and once and for all just sort of just put it to rest. Elvis is clearly better than the Beatles, and that is that. That's just facts. So anyways, I know some of you were asking about my Elvis obsession, and I did get a couple questions about this, so I made the video for you guys. And if you guys have any other videos or any other debates or topics that you want me to put to rest and just say the final word on, please leave those in the comments below, and I'll see you guys in my next videos. Kisses, fishies!